Hello crafty friends, it's Jess from jesscrafts.com, and today I'm here to share a watercolor card created with some Create a Smile stamp sets. To start off, I have the Tim Holtz watercolor distress paper. I like the Tim Holtz because it is pure white. However, there's some other things about it that aren't my favorite. It tends to pill up a little bit more easily than some other watercolor papers, and it's not quite as thick as some other watercolor papers. But when you're looking to do a clean and simple card with a lot of white space, if you want that white to be pure white, it is one of the whitest cardstocks or watercolor cardstocks that I have found. I was able to find another relatively white cardstock, but it had a similar properties, so I think that this is a good one to get since it is so widely available. As I prepare for my watercoloring, you see that I am taping down all of the edges. I am doing this in hopes that I will get a little bit less curling. I don't know that it made much of a difference, but I've seen a lot of other people tape their paper down. Now I tape mine to my craft mat. Perhaps I should have taped it down to a different kind of surface, and maybe a porous surface. I've seen a lot of people tape it to cutting boards, which assumedly would be somewhat porous. But basically I just wanted to leave a little white edge so that, again, the paper wouldn't curl too much. It's not a necessary step, but when you're trying to control where the water drips, it helps. So once I have my paper taped down, I start by laying down some water all over the paper, and then I'm going to be using my Koi watercolors today. I have the Koi sketch box, which has a nice little selection of colors. As you can see, I don't mind keeping mine a little bit dirty, not so much that the colors are interfering with each other, but to me messiness is part of watercolor, but you certainly could keep yours a little bit cleaner. Instead of using a water brush with water in it or a bucket of water, I tend to just spray water out onto my craft sheet. The reason that I like to do this is a couple-fold. With watercolor inside of a water brush, I find that I can't really control the amount of water on the paper or coming out. And with water in a cup, once you dip it in, now the water's dirty, and you can have like a dirty cup and a clean cup, like a cup to rinse and a cup to dip your paint in. But I like being able to have completely clean water very easily. So with the spray bottle and my craft sheet, I can just spray a little bit more out. When I'm done using it, wipe it up with a cloth, spray more, and I have instantly clean water. For today's look, I wanted to create something very soft. I'm like really obsessed with all of the people who create these beautiful watercolor backgrounds that just look like so easy and carefree, and like it doesn't take any effort at all to do, but I cannot manage. Like it looks like they just, put a puddle of water down, drop some watercolor in, and then done. And I've seen videos where people show that, and I just cannot make that work. So I'm constantly trying to figure out like what I can do to sort of emulate that look. And so basically what I have going here is I'm trying to see if I add water first, if that will pull the watercolor in natural ways, because I really like that look of the water just kind of doing what it wants to do. And what I'm finding is that by placing the water down first, I am getting more of that sort of natural blend and that natural watercolor look, but not as much as I want. There's still some concentrated areas, and so I'm also spraying it. Now, I have a regular spray bottle, and I have the Tim Holtz Distress Sprayer. And I will say that I'm sure you could get some other sprayers out there with that same sort of trigger head. The trigger head on the Tim Holtz bottle allows it to do a really fine, misty sort of spray. And then a typical water bottle tends to do a more like straight high pressure spray. And I actually like having both, because sometimes I do want that fine mist where everything's just a little bit wet, and sometimes I really want to push color, and so that different spray bottle, the more traditional spray nozzle with a hard push, it works better. The other thing that I thought might help in this instance to create that sort of soft, flowy look would be to take a straw, like a drinking straw, and blow the watercolor around. But honestly, I've just kind of found that fussing with it is the best way. By just sort of playing around, adding a little bit of water, spraying it about, you're able to just let watercolor do what watercolor feels like doing, and you get a pretty look. The thing is, turning the paper about. I see a lot of people who work on those cutting boards or other sort of boards to help them with their watercolor because it allows them to tilt it and move it around. So I think that that's another way that you create that soft look. So once I had a background that I liked, even though honestly there's like that little dark purple blob that's coming too far out and not looking as soft as I wanted, I'm trying to just let it go for now and see how it looks once I do my stamping. However, with my stamping, I am going to be using a waterproof ink in case I want to go back and add a little bit more of the watercolor. I'm working with a couple of different sets from Create a Smile stamps. I adore their stamps, I adore their stencils, and they have a lot of fun looks out there and some unique stuff, like this wishes stamp set, where you can stamp the word wish or you can make it wishes. And the versatility of that is awesome because you can fit it with some more different kinds of sentiments. And so since I'm going to say cool birthday wishes today, it's good to be able to have that other option without having to have a whole other stamp, because as you know, the more options in a stamp set, the better the value. So I stamped it with VersaFine ink, and then I am sprinkling on some clear embossing powder. This will just give it a little bit more defined raised look, but of course you could just stamp it in the VersaFine, which is a waterproof ink. So the birthday and the wishes are from that wishes stamp set. Then I wanted it to say cool birthday wishes because I wanted to use one of the Cool Buddies from the Cool Buddy stamp set. The little fox is my very favorite and winds up going on this card again. But there's a sentiment in the stamp set that says, keep cool. But I just want the cool. So what I'm going to do is just take a piece of Post-it note, cover the keep part of the sentiment, ink up the stamp, and then stamp it down. So you cover the keep with the Post-it note, put the ink down, pull up the Post-it note, and now keep will be completely clean. And when you stamp it, none of the keep will come out. You do want to be very careful with your placement because you don't want to get cut off any of the letter. You could, in theory, cut your stamps apart, and so you could cut the keep from the cool. But in this case, I think that they are actually attached to each other, and so I'm more hesitant to do that. And the masking works just fine. You just have to make sure that your stamp is really clean before you do the masking. Because if there's a little bit of residual ink on the cool part of the sentiment, the keep part of the sentiment, then it will come off even though you've masked it. So once I have my sentiment the way I like it, I knew that I wanted to add one of the little characters from the Cool Buddy stamp set. I was thinking I was going to add a snowman, but then I didn't think it would present enough contrast because the snowman would be white, and I thought about, the penguin would look really cute too. However, since I was using a lot of cool colors like blue and purple, orange and yellows are on the opposite side of the color wheel, and so it would be really high contrast and would really pop against that blue background. And if you've been following me for a while, you know that I love the blue and orange color combination. So I decided to, once again, color the fox from that stamp set. I am using YR65, YR68, and what might be a little more surprising, R14. R14 is a very orangey red, and I'm only using little bits of it for the shadow area. This is to help create a higher contrast look. Sometimes I do this with the E markers by using like a really high, like an E77 with an E37 to create a really high contrast. However, with the YRs and the limitations on them, I found it better to combine it with an R. So that might be a good tip for when you're using like yellows, maybe using a YR, which is like more of an orange, will create a deeper shadow than some of the yellow options there. I personally also really like to use my hex chart from Sandy Allnock to compare colors, and so if you're a little bit challenged in terms of understanding how the colors relate to each other, I think that that is an amazing resource. You should definitely check it out. So I'm just using a little bit of that R14 at the very edges where I want those deepest shadows. Not too much of it, and it's okay that it's not blended out perfectly because that helps create that deeper shadow. And then I used some W's for the white areas rather than leave them pure white. I actually put a little bit of the W1 marker and blended it out with the colorless blender. Then I took the Copic multiliner and went over the eyes and the nose so they would pop a little bit more. Sometimes when you color over the eyes of critters, they lose a little bit of their emphasis, and so I just like to trace over the eyes, and also when I fussy cut, I like to go around the edges of the image to create a more finished off look, and I'm going to pop them on with some foam tape and give it a black matte border. I wanted to share with you a fun new way that we could connect with each other if you want to connect more online. I have a brand new Facebook group called Critter Loving Paper Crafters. As you know, I like to use critter stamps a lot, including these adorable ones from Create a Smile, but also Newton's Nook, Gerda Steiner Designs. The critters are a big part of my crafting. And so I thought it'd be fun to connect with some people. So if you are interested in connecting with some other paper crafters, be sure to check the link to the Critter Loving Paper Crafters Facebook group. And we have a lot of cool people already in there, like the owner of Create a Smile Stamps is in the group, and she's sharing some of her creations there, and Jennifer Jackson of Newton's Nook too. So I look forward to being able to really that interaction with not only other crafters but also companies who make these awesome critter stamps for us. To finish off the card, I am using some of the enamel shapes from Create a Smile. I think that they're really unique because they're not just dots, they're a variety of shapes, and I'm using it to emphasize my sentiment, creating little groupings, 3 grouping in a triangle to add some visual interest around the card. And that's going to be it for my card today. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you're interested in more crafting tutorials, please subscribe to my channel. I share about 2 or 3 videos a week with some different crafting tutorials. And be sure to check out the Facebook group so that we can connect. Thanks for watching. Bye.